What to do after a death in Germany? Many heirs abroad are unsure what to do when a family member passes away in Germany. German probate proceedings are often very different from the ones here in the United States or in other countries. In this video, I will explain the very first steps that need to be taken when a family member passed away in Germany. My name is Nicola Casper-Hoesl. I'm a German attorney focusing on German inheritance law, in particular for international heirs dealing with estates in Germany. Now, what are the first steps? What is the most important to do when a family member passed away in Germany? Step number one is to obtain a death certificate in Germany. Usually that needs to be obtained and applied for with the vital office in Germany. You usually do it online. We usually recommend to obtain several copies because you will need them to provide and to present to various authorities. So that's step number one, obtain a death certificate. Step number two is to identify the legal heirs. Well, who inherited? Who are the heirs? The big difference here is to understand whether there is a last will in place. If there is, then just read the last will and the heirs will be appointed in it. If there's not a last will, intestate statutory laws will apply. And the German laws will let us know who inherited. Also, please be aware that even if there is a last will, sometimes that will is invalid because it hasn't been drafted in compliance with legal requirements, or it has been forged. Who knows? So we need to take a closer look at the last will, and then we'll be able to identify the heirs. If there's one heir, we're talking about a sole heir. In German, this is called Alleinerbe. If there's several heirs, we're talking about a community of heirs. In German, this is called Erbengemeinschaft, and all the heirs have to work together in order to obtain their inheritance. Once we've identified the heirs, we can move to step number three. Step number three is to understand what is part of the inheritance. What did the deceased own, but also are there any liabilities or debt that forms part of the inheritance? Because in German, according to German law, the heir also inherits debt. And that's where the question as to whether or not you should renounce the inheritance comes into place, because obviously you don't want to inherit debt. So how do we do that? We need to figure out what kind of bank accounts that the deceased own, any life insurance policies, who's the beneficiary in the life insurance policy, and also real estate. Is there still a loan on the real estate? All these questions need to be addressed next. Well, if you made it this far, great. So we already know who the heirs are. We already have our certificate in hand, and we know what kind of assets form part of the inheritance. The very next step, and that's probably your biggest step, is to apply for a certificate of inheritance. That's called Erbschein in German, and the Erbschein is your key to access your assets. You will need to present the Erbschein to the banks and say, hey bank, I am the heir, look at my document. And that document is an official document issued by the probate court confirming who is the heir or who are the heirs if there's more than one, and what's the quota. So if there's two heirs, did they inherit 50-50 or 40-60%? So that document needs to apply for with the competent probate court. You will need to present the death certificate, your birth certificate, all very important documents to the court. And the whole process usually takes approximately 3 to 6 months, depending on which court we're working with. This all can be very complex and confusing, and I know that the language barrier and the different laws that apply might be a little overwhelming. That's why I offer a 20-minute free consultation that can be booked through my website directly. My website is germaninheritanslaw.us. Feel free to book a 20-minute consultation, and I'm happy to look at your case to understand whether or not we can address the next steps and we can make sure you can access your inheritance in Germany.